Media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And good evening and welcome to the Reaver of Common Sense, making sense out of the senseless right here on SHR Media, conservative media done right. Tonight's show centers on one principle: the political class works overtime to avoid accountability. From a member of Congress who teases the name of Epstein's monsters for 3 years just to spike his donor list, to a media machine at CBS that tries to reclassify drug traffic and burglars as nonviolent to protect a failing narrative. We're watching the death of truth in real time. They expect you to be too tired to notice the inconsistencies. They rely on a 24-hour news cycle that resets every morning, wiping away the memory of yesterday's broken promises, unverified claims. But we don't forget. We track the trajectory of the lies, we map out the intersections of the corruption, and we bring it all back to the one thing they fear the most: the simple, undeniable logic of common sense. But across the country, in places like Memphis, Minneapolis, and New Orleans, we are seeing what happens when you stop talking and start enforcing. When the adults take back the streets and remove the predators, the crime numbers just don't dip. They plummet. And right here in Florida, the Office of Statewide Prosecution is reminding local mayors that the law is not a suggestion. A criminal subpoena in Jacksonville is proving that you cannot harbor a criminal element and call it compassion. These stories are not separate. They are the front line of a war between reality and the script. This is the Reaver of Common Sense, where accountability matters, enforcement means something, and the nonsense dies screaming. But before we go any further, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and share this stream like your freedom depends on it, because it just might. Every click helps us punch through big tech censorship and drown out the media noise and make sure common sense has a fighting chance. Now, everybody, we've been talking about it. We are so close to the 1,000 mark. We are, as I came onto air, at 995. Please share the stream. We need 5 more to hit that 1K mark. Let's try to hit it before the end of the show. All right, the first segment, it's going to be Massey's master class in empty rhetoric. We are starting today not with a result, but with a performance. We have all seen the pattern by now. Every few months, like clockwork, Representative Tom and Massey goes out on a high-profile podcast or takes to social media to drop a hint. He looks into the camera with his knowing smirk and tells the American people that he's seen the names, that he's ready to expose the Epstein list, or that he's just one move away from beginning the whole house of cards down. It's the ultimate carrot on a stick. It's designed to get your heart rate up. It's designed to make you think, finally, a member of the DC establishment is going to be the Reaver we've all been waiting for. But then nothing happens. The bombshell never drops. The names never materialize. The list remains hidden in the shadows of DOJ vault while Massey moves on to the next viral tweet. Let's call this what it is: the politics of the tease. Common sense tells us that if you actually have the goods, if you actually have the names of the monsters who protected Jeffrey Epstein, you don't tease it for 3 years. You don't use it as a cliffhanger for your next media hit. You put it on the record. You read it into congressional record. You use your immunity to tell the truth. And that's not what we're seeing here. What we're seeing is a cycle that seems like less about justice and more about fundraising and free airtime. Have you noticed the timing? The bombshell threats always seem to spike right before a big fundraising deadline. They happen right when the likes and the retweets are starting to dip. It's a way to keep the base energized and the donors' links clicking without actually having to take the risk of following through. And if you've seen the polls that have come out recently, he's in danger of getting primaried. And now all of a sudden he's back out on CNN and all these news agencies on X screaming, I'm going to expose. I have immunity to go onto the House floor. They can't prosecute me. It's the coming soon trailer for a movie that never actually gets released. While people like Tom Homan are out there making real arrests and the president is citing 80% crime drop in our cities, Massey is playing a game of I know a secret. The American people are tired of secrets. They are tired of being told, trust the plan, wait for the report. We've been waiting for the Epstein names for years. We've been told by countless politicians that they are on the case. Yet the list remains the most protected document in Washington. Massey wants to be seen as the ultimate outsider, the guy who isn't afraid to ruffle feathers. But real outsiders deliver results. Real outsiders don't use the trauma of Epstein's victim as a hook for a podcast experience. And that's all Massey is doing. He is using the victims to fundraise off of. He is no better than what the Democrats have been doing. No sooner do they use the name Epstein, they're out fundraising, trying to raise money. And if you aren't going to release the names, then stop talking about them. Stop using the most horrific scandal of our lifetime as a tool to boost your social media engagement. The Reaver of Common Sense is done with the tease. We don't want hints. We want the truth. We don't want soon. We want now. If Massey wants to be taken serious as a truth teller, he needs to stop the performance, start the disclosure. Otherwise, he's just another politician holding a script, waiting for the camera to turn on so he can tell us exactly what he thinks we want to hear, while the real criminals stay protected in the dark. Sorry. I gotta finish that coffee before it gets cold. I hate cold coffee. I hate it. Oh. Now we're going to move on to the voter. Coffee, Graham. Oh. All right, Phantom, you're fired. Where the narrative dies screaming. That's right, the voter ID illusion where the narrative dies screaming. We aren't just looking at headlines. We're performing a forensic audit on a lie. A lie that has been manufactured, polished, and sold to the American public by the highest level of the DC establishment. For years, we've heard the same script lines from the halls of Congress. You've heard Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, the activist wing of the ACLU, and every talking head on cable news tell you that requiring a photo ID to vote is Jim Crow 2.0. How many people are tired of hearing that lie? They call it a harshest voter suppression law and a targeted attack on minority communities. They use the phrase Jim Crow because it's a psychological weapon. It's designed to shut down your brain. It's designed to make you back away and stop asking questions because nobody in this country wants to be labeled as supporting something from our darkest chapters. But they want you to believe that in 2026, millions of Americans are simply too incapable, too marginalized, or too disconnected to possess a piece of plastic that you need for every other facet of modern life. I think them making this statement is one of the biggest racist comments of the modern day. You're telling me, and this is exactly what Schumer's saying, these minorities are too stupid, too dumb to get an ID. These are the same people that can drive. They got driver's license, so they got an ID. They can drive. Bank accounts. Some of them the poor, they're on welfare and so forth. Well, you got to show an ID for that. You got to show proof of citizenship. Schumer is doing nothing but.
Please, I'm begging you. Please. I'm desperate. I don't know what to do. Please subscribe.
Oops, wrong button. That was the wrong button. Oops. Is it this one?
They're blowing
There it
smoke
is.
at my rear end so bad, I'm sending off smoke signals.
And that's exactly what Schumer's doing. He's blowing smoke up everybody's ass about this. This is not voter suppression. It does. The only one it suppresses is non-citizens. That's who it suppresses. And that's who the Democrats need right now. And I know, no, there's no illegals that are voting. They can't vote. Bullshit. We keep seeing time and time again people getting convicted. We keep finding them on the rolls. We keep hearing about that they are registered vote. It's not a myth. It's not a once in a lifetime issue. It's happening all over. And it doesn't take a lot of illegal votes to change an election. It doesn't. 100 here, 100 there. What that starts adding up when you start going across counties. And you need an ID to buy beer, to board a plane, to pick up a prescription at a local pharmacy, to open a bank account, or even to enter many of the very government buildings where these politicians are making these claims. Hell, to go to the rallies of these politicians that are claiming it is Jim Crow 2.0 to show ID to vote, are forcing people to show ID to enter those rallies. And if over 71%, I think it is, of Democrats want voter ID, does that mean that the Democrat Party is filled with 71% of people who support Jim Crow 2.0 laws? Is Chuck Schumer saying that he has a bunch of racists in his party? The problem is they know they can't win. So they're trying to fight it. But the problem is they're insulting their own people. And that's not a good thing because they're pushing people away with this elitist, out of touch reality. They're betting on you not checking the facts. They're betting on you to stay silent. But today we're checking the receipts. Let's look at the evidence. When even CNN, the network that usually carries water for the radical left, has to admit the truth. You know, the lie has reached its expiration date. CNN's chief data analyst, Harry, Entrin, recently dropped a bomb on the entire suppression myth. He didn't give us opinions. He gave us the hard numbers. The numbers don't care about Chuck Schumer's feelings or the DNC talking point. Look at the data from the most recent tracking. 85% white Americans want voter ID. 82% of Latino Americans, 82% of Latino Americans want voter ID. 76% of Black Americans want voter ID. Now think about that for a second. We live in a country where we can't agree on what to have for dinner or what color the sky is half the time. But 76 of Black Americans are standing up and saying, yes, I want to show my ID to protect my vote. So I have to ask, if the very people being suppressed are the ones asking for the law, who is the narrative really for? It isn't for the voters. It's for the politicians who rely on the chaotic, unverified system to maintain their grip on power. They're not protecting your rights. They're protecting their own job security. They want a system with no guardrails because guardrails make it harder to find the necessary margins when an election gets tight. this isn't just happening in polling booths. It's happening in the culture. Look at now Nicki Minaj. Hardly a member of the DC establishment. She recently took to social media to ask her millions of followers why voter ID is even a debate. She's essentially saying what every common sense American has known for years. It just makes sense. And the reaction from her fans, the Barbs, has been explosive. We're seeing a MAGA Barbs movement where people are announcing they're leaving the Democrat Party because they are tired of being spoken down to. They are tired of the soft bigotry of low expectations. The idea that they're somehow less capable than their neighbors of obtaining a basic identification card. The left is terrified because their identity politic shield is shattering. This brings us to the policy side. The SAVE Act. The critics in D.C. call it burdensome to ask for proof of citizenship. They call it extreme to verify that people voting in American elections are actually Americans. They call it extreme to verify that people voting in American elections are actually Americans. Let's pause and think about how far we've fallen when American citizenship is considered an extreme requirement for American elections. The ACLU will tell you that 21 million citizens don't have easy access to these documents, but they don't tell you that the vast majority of these people already have them or can get them. Truth is not a security protocol. Trust is not a security protocol. Common sense tells us that a secure vote is the only vote that actually counts. The SAVE Act is about closing the loopholes that let non-citizens onto the rolls. If you have to show a passport to enter the country, why shouldn't you have to prove you belong here to decide who runs it? The Jim Crow 2.0 label isn't a legal argument. It's a psychological operation. It's designed to make you feel guilty for demanding integrity. But that is out. The Latinos are out. The black community is out. They aren't falling for the script anymore. And I've said it time and time again. The Democrat Party has gone to the well on their extreme excuses one too many times. Actually, probably about a million one too many times. They keep going to it constantly. Every time the Republicans do something, they go to that well of the extreme. And you can only cry wolf so many times. You can only cry the sky is falling so many times before the people start going, you're full of shit. Even those that are simply listening to the media, sooner or later are going to wake up and go, you're full of shit. They know that if you don't have a secure election, you don't have a country. The politicians in D.C. keep screaming racism into the wind all they want. But when 82% of Latinos and 76% of the black Americans are standing on the other side of the line, the only person left in the past is the politician holding the script. And we're just getting started, folks. This is the anatomy. Damn it. Of modern political warfare. And we're only peeling back the first layer. Don't go away.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights. at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
Hey, where do you go when you want real conversation and topics? That's right, you step to the edge. The Edge of Liberty is your home for talk radio the way it was meant to be. I'll be live every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network, and we're simulcast on KLRN Radio. We're building something different, Aaron. We just want you to be a part of it. I'll see you on the edge.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to the Reaver of Common Sense. I am your host, Jersey Joe. I'm here to make sense out of the senseless right here on SHR Media, conservative media done right. Before we go any further, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and share this share this stream like your freedom depends on it, because it just might. Every click helps us punch through big tech censorship, drown out the media noise, and make sure common sense has a fighting chance. Listen, everybody, we are so close. Just hit that subscribe if you can. Share this stream. Let's get it out there and let's have some more fun. So where were we? Talking about so much. And just remember, I want to thank everybody also that's here listening. And we've hit the 1,000 subscriber mark. Thank you, everybody. It's been a battle uphill, and I just want to thank everybody, even those that don't like the show and come here and subscribe and complain. The only thing I ask is, well, make sure that you respect the rules. And thank you, Mons, for doing all the work. All right, we'll get back to the next segment, which it's going to be the end of the catch and release. The Fifth Circuit strikes back. We are moving from the integrity of the ballot box to the sovereignty of our borders, and specifically to a massive legal earthquake that just leveled the catch and release industrial complex. For decades, we've lived under a legal fiction maintained by activist court. A fiction that claimed if an illegal alien managed to evade the border patrol and slip into the interior, they were somehow entitled to more rights than someone who actually followed the rules. They called them non-criminal migrants and handed them bond hearings like they were coupons, allowing them to melt into our community for years while waiting for a court date they never intend to keep. But the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals just looked at the plain text of the law and decided that the era of the revolving door is officially over. The ruling that came down this week is a direct hit to the heart of the open border narrative. Judge Edith Jones, writing for the majority, didn't rely on a precedent or a feelings. She relied on the English language She pointed out the law defines an applicant for admission as an alien president of the United States who has not been legally admitted. It does not matter if they have been here 10 minutes or 10 years. If you aren't here legally, you are an applicant for admissions, and the statute says you must be detained. This is common sense codified into law. Yet for 30 years, we've had judges acting like the words on the page were merely suggestions. The court has now affirmed that the executive branch has the full authority to hold those individuals without bond, regardless of how long they've been hiding in the interior. Attorney General Pam Bondi was right when she called this a significant blow against activist judges. Think about the sheer arrogance of the lower court judges who tried to block this. We've had a handful of federal judges trying to tell the President of the United States that he cannot enforce the mandatory detention laws passed by Congress. They were trying to invent a constitutional right to a bond hearing for people who broke our laws to get here. The Fifth Circuit just reminded them that their job is to interpret the law, not to write a get-out-of-free-jail card for the ACLU's client list. This isn't just a win for the administration. It's a win for the separation of powers. The dissenters and the media are already out there spinning this as a radical departure from 30 years of practice. They are crying about due process and fundamental unfairness. But where is the due process for the American citizens whose community is overwhelmed? Where is the fairness for the legal immigrant who spent years and thousands of dollars to come here the right way? The court's ruling makes it clear that the government's past failure to enforce the law didn't somehow delete the law from the books. Just because the previous administration was too weak to use the tools in the toolbox doesn't mean the tools are gone. Remember, we had a previous administration that said, oh, we need laws, we need new laws. No, we needed a president and an administration that was willing to enforce the laws that are on the book now, willing to secure the border now. And that's what the Democrats don't want. They don't want a secure border. They want us overrun. They want to flood us with foreign nationals, whether here illegally or legally. And then let me back that up, because I don't care if you come here legally. That's fine. We do need to regulate how many come into the country. Immigration is good, but like anything else, in moderation. And mandatory detention is the only way to ensure that deportation actually results in a person leaving the country. It turns the entire interior of the United States back into a zone of enforcement rather than a sanctuary for those who evaded the front door. We are finally ending the incentive structure that tells the world, if you can just make it past the line, you're safe. The Fifth Circuit just closed that loophole. Paying the price. Homan's hammer falls on the agitators. Democrats aren't liking it. They had to bow down again. They had to back down again. And these agitators, well, they listened to what they were asked to do, and now they're paying the ultimate price. And we are shifting from the high court ruling to the reality on the pavement, where the rhetoric of the activist class is finally meeting the resolve of the law. For months, we've seen the agitator class operating under the delusion that they could physically stand in the way of federal law enforcement. They've been blocking vans, surrounding officers, and attempting to turn routine operations into a circus for social media. They thought they were untouchable because for a long time, the political were willing to stop them. It just didn't exist. But Tom Homan just went before the camera to deliver a reality check. The border czar isn't just making threats anymore. He's presenting the bill. And many of these agitators are finding out the hard way that interfering with federal agents is a fast track to a jail cell. And they're getting arrested federally. And, well, they're not getting the local judges that are letting them walk. That's the fun thing. The number Homan released are a wake-up call for anyone who thought this was still a game of peaceful protest. He revealed that over 250 criminals have been arrested in a recent sweep. And here's the part the mainstream media wants to bury. Among those arrested were 14 individuals who were previously convicted of homicide. 14 of them were previously convicted of homicide. These are the people the Abolish ICE crowd is physically protecting when they block a street or surround a transport vehicle. They aren't defending neighbors. They are providing a human shield for violent felons. Homan's message was clear. If you stand between a federal officer and a convicted murderer, you aren't an activist. You are a co-conspirator. You are now a target for the very enforcement you're trying to stop, and the administration is no longer interested in giving warnings. This is a fundamental shift in how we handle interference. Under previous leadership, agents were often told to de-escalate, which in reality means retreat whenever a group of masked radicals start screaming. It creates a dangerous vacuum where the mob felt they had a veto over the law. Oh, and then let's throw this in there real quick. It just came out just as I was coming on air, and I didn't have time to pull anything up. It's been ruled that California's federal law, can't wear a mask, is unconstitutional and has been blocked. We've said it on just about every show on SHR Media. Local government, state government cannot tell law enforcement what to do. You cannot arrest them for wearing a mask. It is beyond their capability. You have the governor of New York out there saying he's written an EO that's going to block federal enforcement from coming here and there. It ain't going to do shit. He doesn't have the power. If Gavin Newsom, a governor, doesn't have the power, a mayor doesn't have power. But all these laws that they're putting in, we're going to stop them from wearing masks. Yeah. Well, that paper is about worth as much as what I wipe my ass with. But the new directive is the exact opposite. If you interfere with an ICE operation, you are going to be processed, you are going to be charged, and you're going to face the full weight of federal prosecution. Homan is making it clear that the safety of the agents and the safety of the public comes before the feelings of the protesters. He's exposing the hypocrisy of a movement that claims to be about human rights while they fight to keep killers and rapists on the streets just to score political points. The interference industry is currently in a state of panic because their funding and their foot soldiers rely on the assumption of zero consequences. They want the clout of the arrest without the reality of the sentence. But when you start seeing agitators being hit with felony interference charges that carry real time, the fun of protest evaporates pretty quickly. We are seeing the restoration of a very simple concept. The law is not a suggestion. Tom Homan isn't just cleaning up the border, he's cleaning up the interior. And he's starting with the people who think they are above the law. The bottom line here is accountability. For too long, we have allowed a culture of lawlessness to take root, where the rights of the lawbreakers were placed above the rights of the law-abiding citizens. But that era is over. Whether it's a judge in a robe or a radical in a mask, if you stand in the way of enforcement of American law, you're going to pay the price. The adults are back in the room, and they brought the handcuffs with them. It's kind of funny because I saw this weekend, it was being reported in the local news, you ought to see these protests, and they were down here in Florida. I think they may have had like 10, 15 people at each protest. No one's buying it. Especially here in Florida, you got your now. If they're not shipping people in, I have not met a single person in reality, not on the internet, I'm talking in reality, that supports the protests. Everyone I've met and talked to agrees that these deportations have to happen, that people need to come here the legal way, the right way. And they need to remember that crossing the border illegally is a federal offense. It is a crime. It is not. It is not a civil penalty. The civil penalty has to deal with when you overstay your visa. That is a civil penalty. And still, the penalty for that is deportation. Entering the country illegally is a federal crime. Too many liberals love to spew the misinformation and falsity that it is not a crime, that is a civil offense. They're mixing it up and confusing it. But people are tired of it. Most Americans, a majority of the Americans, and the polls have showed it time and time and time and time again, want deportation. They are fine with what's going on. Because understand, if you're here illegally, you are a criminal. And you can't say that, oh, they commit less crimes. They report less crimes. Because they're here illegally and they're afraid reporting crimes, well, is going to get them deported. So they don't want to deal with the cops. So that theory's right out the window. All right, everybody, it's getting that time. Coming up on the last segment. And we're just getting started. This is the anatomy of a modern political warfare, and we're only peeling back. I would say we're to the second layer. Don't go away. We will be right.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out 7 Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with 7 Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
Hey, where do you go when you want real conversation and topics? That's right, you step to the edge. The Edge of Liberty is your home for talk radio the way it was meant to be. I'll be live every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network, and we're simulcast on KLRN Radio. We're building something different, Aaron. We just want you to be a part of it. I'll see you on the edge.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to the Reaver of Common Sense. I'm your host, Jersey Joe. I'm here to make sense out of the senseless. I don't pay attention. Well, not that I don't pay attention. I do the show and everything, and I'm usually not looking in chat, but I just looked in there to see what the guys are saying about the 1000. I saw some guy on Twitch saying, I don't think this is live. Well, you'd be wrong, wouldn't you? This is live. It's not Memorex. And I just got to thank everybody from the bottom of my heart for the 1000. We appreciate it. We thank you. There's you don't know what this means to us. It's been a work of passion for us. So thank you. And thank you to the moderators for keeping control of the chat room. I know how it gets sometimes. So, all right, let's get on to the next subject. We're going to talk to Minneapolis Miracle results versus radicalism. We are turning our attentions now to a city that was once the ground zero for the radical left's war on law enforcement, Minneapolis. For years, Minneapolis was the cautionary tale. It was the city that let itself burn in 2020. It was the city where the city council stood on a stage behind a defund the police sign and promised a transformative new era of public safety. Well, the transformation happened all right, but it wasn't what they promised. It was a transformation into chaos, into record-breaking carjackings, and into a vacuum where criminals felt more protected than the citizens. But this week, President Trump went before the cameras to defend a very different kind of transformation. He defended the surge of federal enforcement that has been pouring into that city. And he just didn't talk about feelings. He talked about results. He revealed that since the federal hammer came down, thousands of criminals, many of them gang members and illegal aliens with violent records, have been physically removed from the streets of Minneapolis. And the results? Crime just didn't dip. It plunged. For 4 years, the radical leadership in Minneapolis told you that over-policing was the problem. They told you that the presence of law enforcement was what caused the friction. But when the federal government stepped in and started removing the actual predators, the friction disappeared. The carjackings stopped. The open-air drug markets started to dry up. Trump is pointing out the ultimate common sense truth. You cannot have a civil society when you allow a criminal element to set the rules of engagement. But Minneapolis isn't an island. It's a blueprint. The president pointed to other major cities where the tough on crime approach is delivering results that the mainstream media said were impossible. Look at Washington, D.C. For years, our nation's capital was a war zone. But Trump's message this week was clear. D.C. is becoming a safe city again. You can actually walk to the White House. You don't have to take an armored vehicle anymore. Think about that imagery. The seat of our government is being reclaimed from the street gangs and the lawlessness that defined it for the last 4 years. Then you look at the Deep South. Look at what happened in Louisiana. The governor called and said, please do something with New Orleans. That's all, folks. Sorry about that. The federal government went in 4 weeks ago, just 4 weeks. And the result, crime is down 71%. And Memphis, Tennessee, after 5 weeks of federal enforcement, crime has plummeted by 80%. 71% crime drop in New Orleans, 80% in Memphis. These aren't small adjustments. They are the results of a government that has decided to prioritize the victim over the victimizer. The media is already trying to spin this as federal overreach. They are crying about the militarization of local law enforcement. But where were those tears when the small business owners in Minneapolis were watching their lives' work go up in flames, while the police were told to stand down? Where was the concern for overreach when the citizens of Memphis were afraid to leave their homes? The president isn't just defending a policy. He's defending the first duty of government, which is the protection of its people. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt confirmed the scale of this victory earlier this week. Murders in the major U.S. cities have plunged to their lowest levels since at least 1900. We are seeing the lowest murder rate in over a century. And why? It isn't because of community outreach programs or restorative justice seminars. It's because the federal arrest, gang takedowns, and the surge of deportations. We are removing the people who cause the pain. Trump said it best. Crime is down to the lowest level it's ever been in this country because we are finally being tough on crime. We've had fewer murders than we have had in decades because we stopped making excuses for people who break the law. This is the blueprint for every city that has been held hostage by radical ideology. It's a simple formula. Identify the predators, remove them from the community, and restore the rule of law. It isn't extreme. It isn't radical. It is the bare minimum of what a functioning society requires. Trump's defense of the Minneapolis intervention and the results we're seeing in New Orleans and Memphis is a shot across the bow to every other sanctuary or defund city in America. The message is clear. The era of governance by narrative is over. We are back to governance by results. And if the thousands of criminals removed from our streets are any indication, the results are undeniable. Common sense has returned to our cities, not because the radicals changed their minds, but because the adults finally took back the street, and they aren't apologizing for it. Now we're going to be moving from the federal success story in Memphis and Minneapolis to a developing criminal investigation right here in my own backyard. This morning, the Office of Statewide Prosecution sent a clear and unmistakable message to the Deegan administration in Jacksonville. They didn't send a letter of inquiry. They didn't ask for a sit-down meeting. They issued a criminal subpoena. And with the statewide prosecutor operating under the authority of the Attorney General James Euthymire issues a criminal subpoena, it means the shadow government tactics of the sanctuary movement have officially hit the legal brick wall. The focus of this investigation is as serious as it gets. The state is looking for evidence that the mayor's office in Jacksonville coordinated to actively impede immigration enforcement and harbor criminal aliens. Think about the gravity of that allegation. We're talking about the potential misuse of city resources and the subversion of state and federal law to protect individuals who have no legal right to be on our soil. Individuals who, in many cases, are classified as criminal aliens. If the paper trail shows that this administration was running an underground railroad for illegal entry, we are looking at a level of institutional corruption that demands more than just a political apology. It demands a set of handcuffs. Again, I want to thank everybody for being here today. I want to thank the mods. I appreciate you so much. Just keep it respectful in the chat. That's the only thing I ask. We're running down on the show. Listen, everybody, thank you for helping us hit 1,000. I can't thank you enough. I know Sackhead Sean, BZ, and Big E feel the same way. I think we're going to be holding a little celebration for us hitting the 1,000 mark. But if you could, hit the share button, hit the subscribe, and just get this message out. We're here to tell you the truth. We're not here to put a spin on it. And if we're giving you opinion, you know our opinions. The office, we're going to get back to the article, as you can tell, or the segment, I should say. The Office of Statewide Prosecution does not move unless there is smoke. And usually, where there's a subpoena of this magnitude, there is a 5-alarm fire. They are looking for emails, the text, and the meeting minutes. They want to know exactly who was talking to whom when ICE came knocking in Duval County. Was there an early warning system for raids? Were city employees instructed to withhold cooperation? If the evidence shows a coordinated effort to hide criminal aliens, then the Deegan administration is about to find out that Florida is not a safe space for lawlessness. I hope to God that they didn't do it, but if they did, I hope that the Florida government holds them accountable. I'm tired of seeing these politicians break the law and get away with it. You start prosecuting a couple of these mayors, a couple of these governors, they're going to stop this bullshit. They're going to get in line, and they're going to start doing things the right way. For too long, they've been allowed to act that they are above the law. Well, I remember the chants of the left. No one's above the law. Now we're going to be moving on from criminal subpoenas in Jacksonville to a master class in media gaslighting. CBS News just dropped what they're calling an exclusive report, citing an internal DHS document. They want you to be shocked. They want you to be outraged because their data shows that less than 14% of nearly 400,000 individuals arrested by ICE in the president's first year back in power had violent criminal record. Now, they use certain words specifically, that 14% of the 400,000 that were arrested only 14% had violent criminal records. And that sends the Democrats off into a deep end. The media is running with this as if it's a gotcha. They're trying to paint a picture of ICE agents sweeping up innocent grandmothers and valedictorians while ignoring the real threats. But when the mainstream media uses the word violent, they're using a very narrow, very sanitized legal definition designed to hide the truth from the American people. In the world of activist journalism, if you aren't actively pulling a trigger or swinging a blade, you are labeled non-violent. But let's look at what actually in that other non-violent pile. We're talking about drug trafficking. We're talking about human smuggling. We're talking about distribution of child pornography. And we are talking about fraud, burglary, DUIs. They're all in the non-violent categories. I want you to think about that. CBS wants you to believe that human smugglers who profit off the miseries of others is non-violent. They want you to believe that someone peddling poison to our children or driving drunk through our neighbor is a low-level offender. Common sense tells us that these aren't minor infractions. These are life-shattering crimes that destroy the fabric of our community. If someone is breaking into your home while you sleep, do you care if the government labels them nonviolent because they don't have a weapon? Of course not. You want them out of your neighborhood and out of the country. Even the article itself, in a rare moment of accidental honesty, admits that 60% of these individuals had criminal charges or conviction. And the real number is actually closer to 70. Think about the math here. 7 out of 10 people being picked up by ICE are already deep in the criminal justice system. These aren't people who forgot to file a form. These are criminals who have already shown a total disregard for the law of this nation. And a lot of them that had no zero criminal, but were here illegally, got swept up in those raids. Because why? Because mayors and governors refused to work with ICE and have them hand over these people. So ICE had to go in. When they go in for the raids, they sweep up everybody. So you get some people who were quote unquote law abiding, but here illegally, they get swept up because they're not supposed to be here. So if you're going to be pissed at anybody about these people that aren't out breaking our laws, getting swept up in these raids, be pissed at your Democrat representatives. They're the ones that are causing it. If they worked with ICE, they wouldn't be swept up. But a criminal is a criminal. And if you are in this country illegally and you are adding to the crime rate, whether it's through trafficking, burglary, or fraud, you have forfeited your right to be here. The American people didn't vote for selective enforcement. They voted for law and order. They voted for a government that prioritized the safety of the citizens over the comfort of the criminals. So CBS can keep their exclusive and their skewed percentages. We're going to keep looking at the reality. We're going to keep calling out the nonviolent lie, because at the end of the day, they are criminals. They are not welcomed here, and the Reaver of Common Sense is glad to see them going home. All right, we're going to be wrapping it up from here. And again, thank you, everybody that has watched, everybody in chat and that has joined in. I appreciate you. Even the ones that are disagreeing with me, I appreciate you. And we covered a lot of ground today. But if you take one thing away from this broadcast, let it be this: the tide is turning. The era of a selective enforcement is hitting a brick wall of reality. Whether it's the Fifth Circuit telling the activists that catch and release is over, or the Office of Statewide Prosecution knocking on the door in Jacksonville, the message is being sent loud and clear. You cannot subvert the law of this nation and expect the American people to foot the bill for your radical experiment. We saw in the data from Minneapolis and Memphis, when you remove the criminal and the crime goes down, it's not a social science mystery. It's mathematical certainty. And we saw in the desperate gaslighting from the mainstream media, trying to tell you that a drug trafficker is a non-violent, while they ignore the carnage left in their wake. They are losing the argument, so they are trying to change the dictionary. And to the politicians who think they can keep teasing the truth to fill their campaign coffers, your time is up. The American people don't want your hints. They don't want your donor links. They want the Epstein names. They want the border secure, and they want their cities back. The script is failing because the truth is finally being enforced. Common sense isn't just a concept anymore. It's a mandate. I want to thank you for joining me for this forensic audit of the narrative. We'll be back next time to pick up the trail where the establishment where it left off. And don't forget, about an hour from now, you'll have Sackhead Sean. You're going to want to tune in for that. But if you want more, SHR Media has it. BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Of course, Edge of Liberty with Sackhead Sean, Mondays and Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Mission Ready Men with Big E Jackson every Tuesday and Thursday, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, noon on the East Coast. And Reaver of Common Sense with Jersey Joe, Monday and Fridays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 p.m. on the East Coast. This is where we'll leave it tonight. It's the Reaver of Common Sense on SHR Media, conservative media done right, where the truth lives and the nonsense dies screaming. See you Friday.